Hey y'all, you know, I waited until after those so called debates. I got roped into them because I said I wasn't going to watch them, but I raised a child that is incredibly politically conscious and she's young and full of hope. And so, therefore, I participated in a little bit of that nonsense that they called a debate. But I was gonna make this video a few days ago, but I haven't had time. And this just made me reflect on some things that I've been seeing, watching, and participating or choosing not to participate in. You know, I'm convinced that we are reality TV for the gods. I promise. I think maybe that's one of the reasons why we love. Thank you. We love the shit shows. We love the controversy, and now all of a sudden my phone is freezing up, and that's great. I don't know, my phone doesn't usually freeze up, so I don't understand. But in any case, we thrive when we are broken human beings on chaos. People, unless they have something to be upset about, unless they have something to be upset about, this thing keeps freezing, and I hate this, so I'm not going to stay on long. But, you know, there's something about people who, you know, and a lot, this is not just a minority of people. We live in a state where a constant state of something to be excited about, whether that is aggravation or, you know, you'll see it in things like sports. For whatever reason, I haven't figured out yet. But in one of the things that we consistently look towards for to feed those things in us, and I think that you will find as if you do become a more spiritual person, and I'm not talking about a religious person, I'm talking about a spiritual person, where those things that cause disruption, unease, and chaos, those things will cease to be of importance to you when you are trying to get to a certain point in your life where you want grace and ease. There are certain things that you're not going to ingest. People make those changes all the time with their diets and things like that, but spiritual ingesting of things doesn't become, it becomes less desirable to you. I'm not exactly sure, and I apologize, the camera keeps freezing. I'm not exactly sure why, but so so one of the things that we really have to do, I think, as we're becoming spiritual people, is to get to that point where we no longer, that part that feeds off of dysfunction and chaos, that part dies away. You know, what I've seen, especially in the hoodoo community, is a desire for chaos, an approach to magic about that can either create chaos for somebody else or do harm or damage to someone else, and they've lost the soul of the practice. And I keep repeating myself because this thing keeps freezing. You know, part of that is social media has a lot to do with it. It's got a lot to do with media, this influx of information, this influx of messages. And it has actually caused a lot of harm in the spiritual community and in spiritual elements. One of the things that I have encountered over the past couple of weeks is media requests for myself. One of the Columbus magazine one of the Columbus magazines wanted to interview me, and I had to put, and the person who was writing it was really, really good because she really wanted me to write down my responses. Less room for misquoting. And then I was asked by the photographer who was supposed to just come out and take a picture according to, I would believe, the vision of the author of the piece, is if I would perform if there was some type of ritual I could perform. And I said no. And then I said no to the interview. I had a Facebook friend write an article for a very large publication and put my link in it and said they'd hope they'd get me sales. But then I read said article and asked that the article be pulled just because there were a lot of inaccuracies in it about hoodoo. And because I suppose if that article had come out and my link was in it, people would ask me, do you see what this person has to say? Because this is not what you teach, what's going on. And, to a certain extent, yeah, this influx, this chaos, this dragging, I'm repeating myself because it keeps freezing. This dragging is causing controversy, which causes attention, which gets people to pay attention and maybe even spend money for chaos. And so I'd rather not be a part of that. One of the things is I'm actually am having a Magic 101 course on October 1st. And, one of the things I need to stress about what people call magic and what people think is magic is usually not magic at all. And it comes from the media. It comes from constant misconceptions and lies at times. And so you can't build a foundation for truth in yourself with lies. You cannot build any foundation with lies. You cannot have success when you are perpetrating a fraud. And so, at the very basis of magic is nature and truth, and there is such thing as truth. At the very basis of magic is that there are things, energies above us that control us. We are controlled. This whole planet and all of its microorganisms, including ourselves, are controlled by these elements, this energy. And people do not understand that. They look at the media. They look at what somebody does. Because trust me, any conjurer worth their salt or any initiated priest or priestess in African traditional religion is not going to do something sacred and secret for the cameras. Most of the time when you see things like that, it's something that it may have a spiritual meaning because maybe somebody is, mixing an oil or lighting a candle, but actual, real, deep, private, spiritual work, which is part of our traditions, it shouldn't be. And very rarely do I ever see that accurately depicted in the media. You get to the point where you don't even want to discuss. Yeah, I think that I'm not in business playing games here. I want to be a success. But I don't think that associating yourself in participating in this chaos of the Matrix, basically. This is a circus. Everything you see here that is not of the earth, anything that you cannot find on a pentacle, if it's, spirit, earth, air, water, fire, all those things, we have then been able to take in the entire part, everything on the earth, the natural elements, and yes, alchemists have been able to bend them in different ways. Some of them have been bent well, and some of them have bent towards our destruction. So you have to understand that we've taken these natural elements and all of its magic, by the way, it is all man manipulated. And when I mean man, I mean human manipulated. That if you believe that we're all human. Some people have other beliefs on that topic. So one of the things that we have to definitely keep in mind is when we're being shown things, when we're being swayed in one direction or another by our teachers, by our education system, by the internet, that we are really not, we want to make sure we're not participating in chaos. Everybody has certain fundamental truths about themselves that are unique unto them. And I think that one of the biggest problems with people is we're not taking the time or the opportunity to find out who am I? What do I really believe in? What do I believe in? All influences aside, too often we don't think about what we believe in and why we believe in it. And that's what makes people so easily swayed by chaos, disorder, people who are teaching spiritual concepts and basically lying. And then we find ourselves disenchanted with spirit. And that's because you never got there in the first place. Because there's been all of these distractions, all of this supplemental information that actually took away your own divinity, forgetting that we are gods and that we are the masters of our fates, we are the captains of our souls. We have decided that we are going to let what we're shown, rather than what is, make our decisions. So often when someone comes to me and they're beginning a spiritual path, I tell them that the two things they need to work on are their intuitive skills and their discernment. Intuitive, being able to be a receptor for messages that are meant for you, that will help you to your own good, whether that is a mundane or spiritual message. And the discernment to know what to do with that information. And a lot of people don't have that. You got to think we've not been trained to think for ourselves. Even the very nature of a research paper is to take other people's ideas and mold them into your belief system or what you do not believe in, one way or another. That's what's valued in academia. It is probably the reason why I haven't gotten my PhD yet. Because to get my PhD, the piled higher and deeper, that's what it means, is that you will have to, and except in certain sciences, formulate your beliefs and your decisions based on the work of others. To a certain extent, you do have to research things. But one of the things I can tell you about magic and why the media portrayal of magic is never going to be an accurate one is because that's unique to you. Your relationship with the Creator, your relationship with the earth. Nobody, your ancestor altar is you. And you really can't go to anyone else when you need to make certain decisions about your spirituality. And I'm sorry, I keep repeating myself because I see this thing freeze, and I know that this video is going to be choppy, but it always happens when, I actually have like a think piece for you. The biggest thing that we can all do for ourselves now and for our children and for their children is to formulate your beliefs not on what some outside source said. Often people never, ever, ever succeed in doing this one thing. When making decisions, they don't think about everybody else it's going to affect. And they never, ever say, well, how would I feel if this was done to me? And a lot of people are incapable of doing that. They're incapable of, oh great, this thing's breaking up again. They're incapable of doing that because they won't do what's right for themselves. I'm going to repeat that because I froze again, and I'm convinced it's just because people don't want people to think for themselves. In every decision I make, I stop and I think, if my actions were going to affect someone else, when I decide whether I'm going to do that action or not, I stop and think, because I love myself, how would I feel if someone did that to me? And you can't model your belief system on what you see in public. Every single person of every single rank, whether they're the highest spiritual leader down to the lowest down dirty dog, has some shit about them that you don't see, that they will not show. Even the lowest, dirtiest dog ain't gonna show you all their tricks. So you cannot go on perception. You have to follow your spirit. You have to go with where your heart is. And, that's the whole objective of spirituality. That's the whole objective of spirit elevation. Spirit elevation while we live on this earth, spirit elevation when we go to the next dimension. But nobody really stops to think about that. When people start practicing magic, and I'm seeing a change, I'm seeing a shift, and I'm hoping that this is not just a pandemic shift, but one that is going to stick with us for a very long time. And that shift is how, it's freezing again, every time I get ready to say something important, how do I heal me? A lot of people, that's not their first thing. It's a desperate time, so it's money. Or they've been alone for too long, so it's love. I have a feather in my hair. I have a feather pillow, and I keep seeing this feather, and it's driving me crazy. Love, money, or chaos. Okay? Yeah. And so, but I'm seeing more of, how can I heal me? Hurt people. And so what we continue to see in the media is hurting people. We continue to see what's going to get the most likes, what's going to get the most reacts, what's going to get the most publicity, what's going to cause the most controversy, what's going to cause the most jealousy. And the thing is, if you really want to straighten out your life and therefore the world around you, you got to come out the chaos. You've really got to be, now more than ever, even when it comes down to things like whether or not you should wear a mask, what type of masks you should wear, what type of things should you do or should you not do. Because people want to talk about their rights, but everybody has a right to live. And so my approach is, no matter how uncomfortable it makes me, if I don't feel like I can breathe well in it or whatever, I do it because that's how I want someone to treat me. And that's because I love me. A lot of people don't love themselves. And so I think that's what we definitely need to get back to, because if you actually care, love yourself, believe that you're worthy, you know when somebody's selling you some bullshit. Your spirit, your intellect, your intuition, your gut. When you love yourself, you will protect yourself. And you will be more discerning. And you will be more considerate. And you will be more open to be in full reconciliation with the spirits, the gods, and the elements that comprise our universe. But I encourage all of us in this age of a lot of useless information that I'm sorry, my nose is itching. I'm not exactly sure why. Somebody's probably in my business, but that's okay, you know. But we are just bombarded by a lot of information, and if you want to be a spiritual practitioner, you want to be in an initiatory tradition, no matter what that is, there's going to be a level of discipline that is involved, and that discipline also includes self-care. And self-care is not just taking a bubble bath. It's not even taking a spiritual bath. It's about the information that you ingest and how you let it affect your decision making. And also, for those of you who produce things and content, it is about what are you going to project. So I think that it serves me well, and I thought I would share it with y'all, that I project love. I love me, I love my family, and therefore I have to do things in that spirit, even sometimes when I don't want to, even when chaos really, really, really wants to take over. So, as we saw tonight in the presidential debates, we got to break free of that. We have more people suffering from anxiety, depression, poverty, racism, sexism, homophobic. All of this is chaos. None of this is about peace. And when you let it seep in, especially in your spiritual community, it's a recipe for self-destruction. So, people are always saying, well, what do you want to do when you want to practice magic? Well, first of all, come to my class. Come to the class on the 1st if you want to practice magic. But the first thing is learn how to love yourself. Learn how to love yourself. Then you will be able to learn ritual. Oh, this thing keeps freezing. Ritual, belief, relationships with spirits. You're not going to consort with the wrong spirits or spirits that are not for you if you love yourself. And self-actualization. There's a lot of people out here who don't know, and we're not talking about young people who haven't experienced life. We're talking about people who have been here for a while and still don't know themselves, or still hurt to the point of not even being able to function from trauma. And those are the first things you got to resolve. Because guess what? Just because you become part of any type of occult tradition, I don't care what it is, what you call it. If you don't come in and it doesn't build that, you are going to be disenchanted, disappointed, and further away from spirit than when you started in the first place. So keep it easy breezy, y'all. Because like I tell folks, I'm too old for this shit. I'm not going to spend the rest of my days on this earth fucking around with people and their chaos. The best thing you can do for yourself right now is to love yourself. And even though I am not a Christian, loving, your brothers and sisters and those who go by they and them as you love yourself. And the problem is we're not loving ourselves right now. So that's the first thing you gotta fix. Otherwise, you're going to be continue to be subjected to the ideas of others. You're not going to have that discernment. You're not going to have that intuition. You are not going to have that connection with spirit. And in closing, I will tell you, I've got a lot of people that come to me for divinations, and they're not cheap. For confirmation of things they already know. That is a waste of money. What you should be doing is acting and finding out how to fix the things you already know need to be fixed. That's how you should come into your divination. Don't come in like you don't know. You know, that's why you paid. You know? So if you know what the problem is, the questions in the divination should be geared for, how do I change this? How do I love myself better? How it could, because that's being honest with yourself. That anything else is continuing to live in the denial, and even though the diviner will sit up and tell you the same things you've been knowing for 50,011 years, you're not going to do nothing about it. If you came this far lying to yourself and then paid somebody else to tell you the same truth that you have been ignoring forever, what's it going to take? How many readers are you going to go to? Till you find one that tells you what you want to hear? If you want to survive, if you want to live in ease, if you want to rise above the chaos, the first place you're going to start is with you. Have a good evening.